iPhone X, is it really worth buying? You know, I'm coming from an Android phone, Samsung in particular, and I decided to go with the iPhone X. And let's let you know what I think about coming from a Samsung to an iPhone, if it's worth it, if it's worth saving your money, if it's just total hype. Let's get into this review. So what's in the box is this. You got a lightning cable instead of a 3.5mm jack. It does come with an adapter. I currently have that at work because I'm using my Samsung headphones at work because they're way more comfortable than these. Then this power brick. This is not a fast charging power brick, so don't get your hopes up. Apple did not include one with the device. And of course you have your charging cable, you have your instructions, just the typical crap. I think it's pretty jacked up that Apple did not include the fast charger, since Samsung already includes the fast charger. It seems like Apple's always one step behind. This cover here, this one's by Patchworks, but I do have a Spigen, and they're both clear. The sides are TPU. So the bumpers on the side is TPU and the back is polycarbonate, so it's like a really hard plastic. And that's phenomenal because if you drop your phone, it absorbs in the areas that you know is going to take the hit. And then the back is like a really hard plastic, so it does not break your glass. The front is just a normal glass screen protector I have on it. And another thing I wanted to mention is, if you're looking for a fast charger, use your iPad charger. That's going to be pretty fast because it's a larger battery, and it's trying to charge that larger battery at a fast rate, even though it seems kind of slow. With the phone, it's a lot faster. And if you don't have one of those, buy an aftermarket one, but make sure you get an Apple cord, so that way you could at least make sure you're charging it correctly and the aftermarket charger does not burn up your device, or it does not charge it at the rate you want it to charge it at. So enough of that, and let's get into the review of the phone, which is why we're all here. So one of the biggest things that I immediately found out when holding the iPhone X in my hands for the first time, coming from a Samsung device, is the glass. So the S7 is the one I had before this phone, and I was debating whether to go with the X or the Note 8, and that's why I kind of held off with the Note to see what the X had in store. And sadly, it's a disappointment on the glass portion of it. And the reason why I went with the X was for the 4K at 60 frames a second and 1080 at 240 frames per second camera that the X comes with. Samsung does not. So that's what pushed me to buy this phone. So my biggest issue with this glass is the way it sounds. So let's get into the way it sounds. So when you hold the device, the way I found out was by texting. So I'm over here texting. Well, this is what the phone looks like when you power it on. And if you could hear that, it sounds hollow. So imagine sitting here texting like this and hearing that the whole time. It's an ugly sound. It sounds like it's just plastic in front, and it sounded way worse before I put the glass cover over it. So if you're deciding to get this product, make sure when you go in the store, grab the Samsung, text with it or write something in Google and see how it feels, and then go to the X and do the same thing, and immediately you'll hear the difference in the glass. So I don't know if there's like no backing behind the glass to absorb it, absorb that sound as you're texting, or if it's just the materials they use. I don't know, but check that out. That was an issue for me. That may be a deal breaker for you, so definitely check that out. So camera is another thing that I wanted this phone for. So you double tap, slide up, right? So I go to camera, okay? I like to shoot videos, so for the holidays you're ready to shoot videos. So as you can see, it's a great camera, right? So you see 4K at the top, and you're like, hey, I want to change the settings on this 4K. I want to change it to 4K at 60 frames so I could do some type of slow motion. Go and slide down. Nothing there, right? Click it. Can't change it. I could change this area, but I can't change the frames per second. Slow motion, you may say, hey, there's slow motion, who needs to change it here? Swipe it over, slow motion. This slow motion is not the 4K slow motion. I'll show you why in a little bit. But there's no settings there either, okay? The audio. The audio is kind of driving me crazy right now. The issue I'm having with it is I'm getting a popping noise and a skipping sequence while my music plays. So, and it only happens with the headphones. So I don't know if it's a issue in the actual software or what it is. So initially, these are the Apple headphones. So I do have the Apple ones, but I also have an adapter that it came with that has this in to a 3.5 millimeter jack. I don't have it currently with me, but I do have it at work. And the issue I'm having is if I am basically playing a soundtrack, I put this in, so I insert it, and for instance, I'm playing a soundtrack, so turn it up. And you could hear it fine, right? When I use that adapter, the 3.5 millimeter adapter, it starts to pop. And I don't know if it's because it's a 3.5 millimeter adapter to this lightning cable, or if it has to do with the actual software that it's picking up, like a frequency, and it's getting audible feedback through the cord or something. I did try Pandora and the Amazon one, and it's a hit and miss thing. I did find out that it has to do with this Bluetooth. So when I clicked off the Bluetooth sound, or the Bluetooth enabling device button, I clicked that off, and then I pushed play, and the popping noise disappeared from the headphones. And you could tell instantly when you connect the 3.5 millimeter jack to the lightning cable and attach the headphones to it. You could hear it before you even play it or even click on your audio app that you have. You could hear a popping noise in your headphones itself. So you could hear it. It sounds like it's basically making the like a feedback through the speaker itself. So it sits there and makes a pop, 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 pop noise really fast in here. And it's really annoying because it will make your the track you're on sound like it's skipping. But I don't know if it's just the actual device itself, or if it's the software, but check that out and see if you have that same issue. So that's another concern that you guys want to be aware of when purchasing this device. Okay, so in order for you to get to your 4K or your settings to change that camera, you have to swipe up, you have to go to settings, you have to scroll down until you find the camera, which is right there. Oh, so you gotta go back, go to camera. Once you get to the camera, you find these settings. So let me get closer. As you can see, you have the the 4K at 30 frames for the video record. So you click that, it gives you all your settings. So you gotta do it here, right? The slow motion button that you seen and you thought, hey, it could be 4K, right? That's wrong. Slow motion record, you only get 120 frames per second and 240 at 1080. So that slow motion quick button will not allow you to do the 4K or set it up for 4K or any of that. That sucks. Okay, so that was one of my other big issues, right? And it doesn't stop there. Icon movement. So when you're with your Samsung device, right, you could put your icons anywhere on this display. On the Apple, if I wanted to move something, you hold it. Can't even put it over here. It goes back. If I want to put it up here, everything moves and shifts down one. That's crappy, dude. Then you could push done when you're done. So that was a big downfall coming from a Samsung device. Something that you ought to know if you decide you want to go this route. Okay. Another issue is this notch. Okay. Apple says you got a 5.8 screen, right? That's from this corner all the way down to that corner. It's 5.8. So you measure diagonal on the whole screens, but that's not a true 5.8 because you're losing some of the screen with that notch. And the only thing that this edge does on these two corners is display the battery, display your connection to the internet, so Wi-Fi or whatever you have, display your phone itself, the connection, and display the time. That's it. That's all it does. So that's just wasted space. Well, not really wasted space, but that's really not part of the full size. You could debate, Samsung, same thing. So Samsung, it displays everything up there and goes straight across. So you can't really put apps up here anyway. But at least Samsung has a little swipe down thing. So that way you could get to settings. Apple's is below that notch. So they kind of utilize that, right? Samsung utilizes the space in between here, even though you can't put an application up that far. They still utilize it for that. So another thing that they, market is the A11 Bionic chip, right? It's super fast. Swiping through this portion, it's kind of laggy compared to Samsung's, but give them the benefit of the doubt. You got the fastest processor in there. That's out on the market, and the A11 Bionic chip is supposed to be superior. They do a test on it and all that jazz, but what do you need a fast processor for if you're not, video editing or using it in that sense where a laptop is going to utilize all that? You can't really do anything with the phone, so it's all hype. You're paying for something that you're probably not going to use. It comes in handy though for 4K, don't get me wrong. So when shooting 4K, you could process all that information a lot faster, especially at 60 frames. But you could do the same thing with Samsung. If you're not looking for the 4K at 60 frames per second, the A11 Bionic chip is kind of useless. if you're just using the phone for calling people and all that stuff, playing music, the typical things you use for a phone, the A11 Bionic chip is overkill. If it's the MacBook Pro or something like that, by all means, A11 Bionic chip is going to be really nice for that. But for a phone, you're not going to use it unless you're really into your camera. If not, it's wasted. So that's just something else I wanted to mention. Another issue I found is when loading a page, sometimes it freezes on you and it won't allow you to actually select anything. So the image will not load or anything. So as you can see, it doesn't have a loading bar. So every time I click this image, it's not even letting me look at it. But I can actually still work the phone. It's not completely frozen, just that page. So that's weird how this issue just randomly occurs. So that's another thing to be aware of. And as you can see, it didn't even load the rest of the page. It's like this page is frozen in time. So I refreshed it and it took me back. So randomly I have these issues. So I'm pretty sure it's a software issue and I'm just waiting for an update. But that's some things you may want to consider before buying this phone, that there's going to be software issues. So when you pull down on it, as you can see, it refreshes the page. And then when you click on a page and it opens up, I noticed to go back, all I have to do is pull to the side like that and then let go, and it'll take me back to the previous page I was on. Or depending on what you're on, if you're on an image, so as you can see, it took me back to the previous page. It'll scroll through the images, but you could sit here and swipe forward, swipe back, and it'll basically run through the pages you were previously on, and back and forth. You could scroll through the pages by using this method. One thing I did notice is I have a lag in my network. So as you can see, it kind of took a while to load this page. I noticed that compared to the S7 Edge, this phone is a little bit slower in response to the internet service. I don't know why that is. I am currently on the Verizon wireless plan and as my network carrier, and I have unlimited, so I don't see why that's an issue. Sometimes I'll get messages where it won't even load the page because it's so slow. So I don't know if it's the antennas, because I know it's not the case itself. It's really thin and it's not metal, so it shouldn't be hindering the signal. And another thing I wanted to mention is, okay, and then another thing is Face ID. You know, when this is off, I lift it up, boom, it unlocks. Okay, it's kind of laggy, as other people mention in their videos, right? So that's okay, I don't have an issue with that. I'm always used to, anyways, clicking the side button and swiping up on my Samsung device anyway. That's just how I always use my phone. But there's an issue with it. Every time I hold my phone close to my face, like a couple feet, it automatically starts picking it up and it turns on, you know. I believe that's the IR in the phone, and it's only picking it up through the camera. But I mean, because that little blinky light, you won't see it. But I mean, like when you look at your phone, it's like I don't want it to always turn on. Sometimes I just like lift it up when I'm walking and it'll turn on. Sometimes it won't even turn on. It's not 100% positive. So that's another thing to think about. It sometimes, it doesn't pick up your face, so I ask you to punch in your passcode. So with numbers. And lastly, I want to talk about how to get rid of your apps, right? So you push up, pull over to the side. They're right there, right? You swipe up to get rid of them. So you could swipe up, or you could push the little minus button. If you're in it and you want to get rid of it, you just swipe up too. But I mean, it's still going to be there. So you want to always swipe up, pull over, hold it down, wait for that. You don't have to push that. You could just swipe up and get rid of them that way. You go up, they're gone. So if this review was helpful in the different things I found compared to coming from an Android device, and if you're thinking about doing the same thing, these were just some things I wanted you to learn and know about and test out between both phones before you purchase it, and maybe save yourself some money this way. If you like this review, kill that thumbs up button and subscribe. See more content and just random things I have that I'm going to do a review on. Thank you for watching.